This is Greg Columbus of Radio America reporting for WorldNet Daily. My guest at this time is Paul Sperry, co-author of the brand new book, Muslim Mafia, Inside the Secret Underworld That's Conspiring to Islamize America. His co-author is Paul David Gabbett, who, along with his son, went undercover in some of these radical Islamist organizations in this country, including the Council on American-Islamic Relations, known as CAIR, which has seen several officials in recent years be prosecuted on terrorism charges. And Paul, thank you very much for being with us today.
My pleasure, Greg.
Well, some Americans, as I mentioned, have certainly seen CAIR, as this organization is called, in the news. But explain for our listeners what it is and how it's linked in with what you describe as the Muslim Brotherhood.
Well, it's actually one of the front groups, and this is in FBI and Justice Department documentation one of the front groups of the Muslim Brotherhood in America. And Muslim Mafia is an expose on this Muslim Brotherhood, which operates a lot like the mob, only more dangerous. And we have a special investigative focus based on this unprecedented undercover operation inside the headquarters of the Council on American-Islamic Relations, which is under investigation by not only the FBI, but now also Congress, which, as you may know, held a press conference yesterday based on documents uncovered in our book, Muslim Mafia.
Right. So your co-author and his son, Chris, decided to go undercover in these organizations. How did they get in, and what, above all else, were they looking for?
Well, this was you're familiar with the young investigators who exposed Acorn corruption,
sure,
posing as pimp and prostitute. Well, this is the Acorn sting on steroids. You had Chris, primarily. He grew a beard and then pretended to convert to Islam at one of the main CAIR mosques, and then snuck in behind enemy lines. Went in actually into their headquarters 3 blocks from the Capitol, and in this unprecedented undercover operation, which, by the way, was run by his father, a former federal agent with whom I collaborated on the book, Chris had with him 2 female undercover researchers wearing Islamic veils, and they posed as interns with him, along with Chris, and then Chris collected whole boxes of evidence marked for shredding. There's a total more than 12,000 pages, in fact, plus covert video.
How did he get the documents out?
Well, these were marked for shredding, and what he did was go through them and then take the documents that he felt that he needed to preserve as evidence. Under law, if you have reasonable suspicion that there is criminal activity at a place of employment or within the government, it is not only just your duty, but you could be prosecuted if you know that is potentially criminal evidence of a crime, and you go along with destroying it, you could be prosecuted. So he said, well, I better gather this up. He put it in his trunk instead of throwing it in the garbage. And they gave him full authority to do what he wanted with these documents. You know, he had their full trust. This was their star intern. I mean, he really got in their good favor. In fact, the official spokesperson for CAIR, Ibrahim Hooper, one day took a liking to him so much that he offered to arrange a marriage for him. Chris is 29 years old, and he said, "Son, you're at the age where you need to start getting yourself a woman, a wife in Orthodox Islam. You don't date in high school, the boys and girls, or even in college, and their marriages are arranged, even in some of these Orthodox mosques." And so this was the highest compliment that could be paid to Chris, to have somebody, a leader within CAIR, offer to arrange his marriage. So he really got in elbow to elbow with the top executives, and no one has ever been able to do that before. Really got close. So he spied on the enemy and lived to tell about it, and this is the story in Muslim Mafia of a reverse infiltration, because they've done an alarmingly good job of infiltrating our institutions, and this is the first time, other than having some FBI moles who have gone into some of these mosques, these radical mosques, this is the first time we've had penetration of one of these front groups.
What were they specifically looking for in the documents? What raised a red flag that they definitely knew they wanted to grab?
Well, there's certainly national security issues, and there was also evidence initially of a massive criminal fraud. And what was so ironic about it is that they were victimizing fellow Muslims. These were poor, indigent Muslim immigrants who were going to CAIR for pro bono help in getting U.S. citizenship. And what CAIR was doing was they had a lawyer who wasn't even a lawyer filing all their cases on their behalf with Homeland Security. And he wasn't even, not only did he not have his license, he didn't even go to law school. He was a complete fraud, and he was shaking them down for tens of thousands of dollars. There was at least 30 victims. And when the victims started gathering together and saying, we're going to go to the media, we're going to sue you, CAIR, if you don't, restore our money, because some of them have to sell their cars, their furniture, then we're going to go to the media. Well, CAIR, boy, they went into damage control mode. They shut down an entire office in Herndon, Virginia. They scrubbed hard drives. They marked boxes to be shred and handed them to Chris. And then they actually threatened, they got their lawyers to threaten the victims and made them sign an agreement. Said, if you want any restitution, you're going to sign this agreement of confidentiality. You don't breathe a word of this to anyone, and if you do, we're going to sue you for $25,000 to repair the damage to our reputation. I mean, this is the cover-up. It wasn't just a crime, it was a cover-up at the highest levels within CAIR. And so then that was the first thing, and then he started collecting evidence and finding evidence of CAIR supporting terrorism.
Paul, what are the ultimate goals of CAIR, and what are some of the methods that they use to get there?
The ultimate, right now, what's particularly alarming is the documents that were uncovered showing, these are memos and emails, showing their strategy to run a hostile influence operation targeting key Homeland Security committees in Congress. And the whole thing is designed to gut post-9/11 security measures to protect this country from another attack. And this is exactly what lawmakers at this press conference were so agitated about and concerned, that CAIR was planning spies inside Congress. In fact, in one of these memos, they actually say that we are going to put our people into these committees, and there's documentation that they already had it put at least 3 former CAIR staffers in key positions on the Hill. And what they're trying to do is to influence the Patriot Act, trying to, just like you were talking about, the complete agenda, try and destroy our alliance with Israel. It goes from domestic policy to foreign policy. And in 1 year alone, one document says that they bragged about going to the Hill, separate trips, 72 separate trips, to try and repeal the Patriot Act, which of course is set up after 9/11 to help law enforcement crack down on terrorists. And this is the group that is part of the Muslim Brotherhood, bullying America into accepting Islamic law while getting rid of laws that protect us from terrorists. So this is the urgent situation that we're trying to bring to you and the American people's attention with this book, Muslim Mafia.
So they're trying to bring in Sharia. Do they have goals of, government takeover or anything like that, or is it more just of a gradual seeping infiltration into the culture?
That is the ultimate goal. They even talk about in their documents, even if it takes 100 years, this is what we're going to establish, Sharia theocracy in America. But what they immediately want to do is roll back these anti-terrorism measures, and the CAIR and its sister organization, the ISNA, which stands for the Islamic Society of North America, they are the spearhead of the Muslim Brotherhood conspiracy to penetrate Washington and infiltrate key agencies. And this is the language they use in their documentation that's been recently declassified by the FBI. Sabotage them once they're in and destroy our entire system. Destroy is the word they use, of the U.S. government from within. So they first have to infiltrate, get in there as moderates and so-called mainstream groups, and they get in all these positions like a bunch of moles, and they start undermining our society from within. The feds are now referring to the Muslim Brotherhood as a full-blown conspiracy, that's the word they use, to subvert America.
Wow. Paul, just a couple minutes left here, and the book is just launching. What has been the reaction, two-part question here, what has been the reaction of CAIR to what's in the book, and what reaction have they had specifically to learning that Chris was undercover the whole time?
Well, they, like Chris said to me the other night, he said, I'd love to know, be a fly on the wall in there. They're probably in complete panic mode because they really were blindsided by their very secretive operation.
Paul, unfortunately our time is up. Thank you, sir, very much for being with us and letting us know what's in this book.
My pleasure, Greg.
Paul Sperry, the book is Muslim Mafia, Inside the Secret Underworld That's Conspiring to Islamize America. His co-author is Paul David Gobbets, who is also involved in this undercover operation with his son Chris. I'm Greg Columbus of Radio America, reporting for WorldNet Daily.